Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Get Sculpted podcast. As usual, we have another great episode, and I'm here with my lovely co hosts, Jordana and Marilyn. So, today we have a topic that is super important that you might need to hear at this point in your journey. And this might not be what you want to hear for some of you here, and that is that you might not need to focus on fat loss right now, or that might not be the optimal thing for you to focus on. And we mean that in the most supportive and knowledgeable way possible. So here is what is the uncomfortable part. If you have been dieting consistently for a number of months and years, or heck, maybe even for decades, you've spent most of that time dieting and restrictively dieting and eating very low calories and restricting your food and fasting and doing all these things, your body and your metabolism might not be in an ideal place for you to diet more. And drop your calories more. And I get it, because you might be thinking, but I have fat to lose. I still didn't achieve my fat loss goal. I have more to go. Yes, we're not saying that you should not pursue fat loss. But at this point in time, it might not be what is going to take your body to that fat loss that you do want to achieve. So what we're going to explain in this episode is why that is and what you can do instead and what that looks like. So, Jordan, I would love if you would kick us off with explaining the most important thing here, which is all about metabolism.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want you to really hear me when I say your metabolism cannot be broken. It is not something that you can literally break. It's not like a glass vase or anything like that. It is, your metabolism isn't even fixed in one place permanently. You always have a metabolism from the day that you are born, but you're not stuck with how it operates. It can be dialed up and it can be dialed down based on how you treat it and based on how you treat your body. So because it's dynamic, it responds and adapts to what you feed it, how you train, how much sleep you get, which go back to our last episode if you're wondering about that. And also a key piece is how long you've been dieting. Because let's break this down for a second. Your metabolism is essentially your body's engine. And if we think about how an engine works, we need to know how many calories it's going to burn at rest and in motion. And so like any engine, it might need fuel to get the engine to work. But how efficient that engine is going to be is something that we need to talk about further.
Right.
So what our body is always trying to do is trying to find that equilibrium. When you eat less, your metabolism is going to adapt to that. And so it's going to down regulate. It's going to slow down. So you need less calories to operate.
Right.
And when you eat more consistently in the right way with the right muscle stimulus that builds muscle, then your body's going to need more. You're stoking that engine. You're making it run better and faster. And you're going to be able to adapt to that too and eat more while staying lean.
Right.
And when we think about the idea of chronic dieting, years in it being in a calorie deficit, doing aggressive cuts, eating very, very little, it teaches your body to become very efficient, very good at surviving on less. And as we age, we don't want that, because that is what makes us frail and weak and tired and sick. And so we need to get better and better at eating more while staying lean, as opposed to burning fewer calories to eat less and ultimately hang on to fat. Like, think about the body composition shifts that happen in those two scenarios. And because of this, like we can actually rebuild our metabolism. We can, and not that it was ever broken, but we can enhance it. We can build it back up. It just takes intention and time. And this is what we talk about with our clients before they come on board, is we actually assess, hey, what has your dieting history looked like? How long have you been trying to go after this goal? What are the tactics that you've taken to get there? Because that is going to give us as the coaching team information and data points around, are you really ready for the goal that you have in mind? Or do we need to do some pre-work to repair what has happened to your body over time so that we're priming the metabolism to be ready for fat loss? Because if the metabolism is the engine, chronic dieting is what's been slowing and draining the tank. And we want to get into what that does a little bit more deeply. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Mare, to talk us through that piece.
I think this is one of the most important conversations we have with a lot of women who come into our coaching program, because most of them actually don't realize that they fit the definition of a chronic dieter. You know, they might think that a chronic dieter is someone who's like, done the same diets, like, maybe done it for a couple of years. Like I've heard a lot of women coming saying like, like I did Weight Watchers for the last 2 years. Okay, that's a form of dieting, but that's not what chronic dieting actually means. Chronic dieting is not necessarily one diet done for a long period of time. It's years of on again, off again restriction. And for so many women, I actually would say the majority of women we speak to are in some version of a caloric deficit their entire lives, with very little, if any, time spent at maintenance between these diets. So like, for all of you listening, I want you to think of your dieting history, right? Like I know that there's some clients who come in and they're like I did Weight Watchers, I did keto, I did intermittent fasting, I did this challenge, I did 75 hard, and so on and so on and so on. And so like what we come to realize is a lot of women have been chasing some version of fat loss for so long that they don't even know what their body at maintenance feels like. So what we want to do is walk you through what's actually happening to your body when you have been in a chronic dieting cycle for years, because you may not think anything of it, but there is a huge impact to what's going on to your body. Okay. So George, you touched on a few of these. We're just going to kind of go a little bit deeper. So first is your body downregulates its metabolic rate to match your intake. Okay. The intake of your food. It learns to function on less. Your body is like an incredible machine. So if you're giving it little, it's going to function on that little food you give it. So this calorie deficit might have worked for you years ago, but now it's not working for you anymore because your maintenance has dropped along with your eating. And the only way at that point to then lose more body fat is to continue to decrease your calories. And we've said this so many times. You are not a toddler. You cannot be eating such low calories as like a child would be eating. Even so, I actually think some kids eat more than.
But my kids eat more than that.
Yeah,
100%.
Right. The other thing we have to think about is like your hormones. Okay. So your hunger hormone, when this is happening, gets really loud. So ghrelin, we talked about this in past episodes, the hormone that tells you you're hungry, right? This increases because your body is trying to push you to eat more, right? It wants to restore that deficit because it's saying like, I can't sustain this. I need you to eat more. At the same time, leptin drops. So leptin is that hormone that signals fullness and satiety, and it supports burning fat. So you're going to feel less satisfied after eating, and your body is going to become less efficient at burning fat.
And this is why most women will come to us saying, I have horrible cravings.
Yes.
I'm addicted to sugar. I'm an emotional eater. I eat late at night. And most of it comes down to not eating enough during the day, period.
100%.
Remember, easiest way to overeat is to undereat. I love that saying, right? So now, like, if you've been dieting hard without prioritizing protein and strength training, well, guess what? You've actually been putting yourself in a situation where you're losing muscle, and muscle is that engine. Okay. So now you're eating less, your hormones are working against you. You have a smaller engine to drive the whole system, which is your body. So now your metabolism is slowing right down. Then cortisol rises because prolonged restriction is stress on the body, and chronic stress signals store more fat, right? Especially around the midsection. That's what it's telling your body to do, which is why so many women also tell us, I feel so heavy around my midsection. I've gained so much weight around my midsection, even though they're eating less. And the cruelest part of all of this is that the harder a woman diets, the harder fat loss becomes, because your body is doing what it was designed to do, which is protect you. Okay. So if you have been dieting for years and you feel like your body has stopped responding, like you said, George, your body is not broken. Your metabolism is not broken. They have actually adapted. That's all this is. Your body has adapted. Your metabolism has adapted. And there's a huge difference between broken and adapted. Something that is broken can't always be fixed, but an adapted body and metabolism absolutely can. It just takes a different approach than the one that's got you to where you are right now. And I feel so bad because when women come to us and they are so frustrated, they're eating so little and the scale's not moving and all this is happening, the instinct is always the same. What do? I got to eat less. I got to train more. And you are literally going in the wrong direction, because the work is not to push your body more. It's not to give it less food. You need to do the opposite, right? So that's basically what's happening to the body. It's like you create this perfect storm. So T, I think this is interesting because I said this in a momentum call once and I got met with kind of like, honestly, they were like, huh? But it's so true. Like earning the right to diet. So I kind of want to dive into that because I know that sounds a little harsh, like earning your right to diet, but there is a lot of logic to that. So can you take us through that?
Yes. And I will say this, if you're a client listening to this, we've all had conversations with you around like why you need to do this, because there's certain points in your fat loss journey when, like, let's say you've reached a point where your body's plateaued, or like now we're in very low calorie territory and like, you know, we don't want to get there. And like your body's showing signs that your metabolism's down regulating. Or if you're a chronic dieter trying to start that first fat loss phase, we need to prime your metabolism so that you're going to respond better to that fat loss. A visual that I like that I heard recently is a teeter-totter. And I thought this was super helpful. So if you're not watching me on video, you know, picture a teeter-totter like on the playground. Like one side is going to be maintenance. One side is your deficit. So if you're sitting on that deficit side and you've been just plumped on that deficit and you're constantly there, your teeter-totter is way imbalanced. And then now you are like at the bottom of your teeter-totter and you got nowhere to go.
Right.
You're like, okay, you've never spent that time in maintenance, or it's like the teeter-totter comes up a little in maintenance, bam, back down into deficit. Your body is not going to respond from that place. So the reality is, like, what most women do is they spend months there in a cut, or like spend most of the year, if we zoom out, like, and I've done this, a couple of years ago. I honestly reflected and I was like, damn, most of this year was spent on low calories. And here I am expecting to see more changes when I've never even taken that time to get myself back to that equilibrium. So that's where we want to be. And, George, you talked about that earlier, that place where you're in maintenance, your teeter-totter is balanced. And now that means you've taken time to intentionally increase your calories, training the right way. Right. And this is another sidebar that I know some people are like, I go in maintenance, but it's really just like zero meal structure, no more food tracking,
that's
no
not
proper
maintenance.
training.
No,
that's not maintenance. That's not maintenance. You want to maintain your food structure, increase your portions, like actually like do this ideally under the supervision of a coach. Hello, this is exactly what we do. This is why we tell our clients, you are not done after the fat loss phase. You're just beginning. Yeah. Increase it to intentional maintenance, spend months there. That's when you're going to get to that place where you've earned the right to diet. So now we have more wiggle room, right? Like you've now increased your calories, put that toward hopefully mostly building that muscle, increasing your resting metabolic rate. Now your body's like, I'm Gucci, like I'm good at this intake.
Primed.
I decrease my food a little bit, bam, my body responds better.
Fat loss.
Exactly. Yep. And fat loss by not grinding the heck out of it. Like I'm going to do, 75 hard and 2 workouts a day and 1,200 calories. You don't need to do any of that crap. No. You're just putting yourself in a very slight deficit, maybe 10 or 15% to start. And you're seeing that room. And I know you guys, we've all been through this, I think, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I've been through the reverse where it was like I was dieted down where my metabolism ended up down regulating. And it's taken me several years. 2 years. And this is where I think people really need to hear this. Everybody's body is different. For me, I was in such a tough spot that I needed to bring calories up so slowly over such a long period of time to create that new maintenance. And it had to go in multiple cycles. It didn't all just happen at once, which is why it took years. And that's what I think people miss the boat on here is like they go into maintenance and then they take away all that structure. And they're just like, oh, I can just live life here now. But without that structure, that's what helps you stay in maintenance because you have like the system in place. Without the system, you end up backpedaling into where you might have started before. And so like the time frames, I think, is something that people really need to get their heads around.
Big time.
And I've had those conversations too. I know a couple people will be like, I've dieted and counting calories and I'm not losing. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. Your first 6 weeks, at least with us, we're not going to put you in a deficit. We're actually going to keep you, like some people have actually started them on a reverse and like brought their calories up. And sometimes their body responds well and the metabolism actually, like you'll sometimes, not always, don't quote me on this if it doesn't happen for you, but you'll lose some weight when you're bringing your calories back up because your metabolism was like, damn, I really needed this.
Exactly. Exactly.
So Jord, tell us about that actually. Let's segue into maintenance. Like, why is this really where the magic happens?
I love maintenance because most women see it as like doing nothing. They see it as treading water and waiting to get back to the real work of fat loss. But maintenance is the real work. Maintenance is where you want to be. It's not where you want to. You haven't done it yet. Like the magic of maintenance. Like I think back to like one of my clients who called it like, I've never felt that life was easy until I hit maintenance, where it's like you don't really have to think about the dieting piece. You're not hungry anymore. Like there's so many things that happen. And so during like a proper maintenance phase that is taken through with a coach, your metabolism gets the signal that food is available and it regulates. So you start burning more calories at rest. This is ultimately what we want. It's like the best feeling ever. Your hunger and your fullness hormones, they start to normalize. So the things like cravings or being hungry all the time, like all of that stuff just starts to dissipate. Muscle is preserved when we're in maintenance phase. and it can be built, which increases your metabolic rate long term, which is ultimately we want to happen. And so the longer we're able to be in that maintenance phase, the better your body composition is going to be, and the more toned and tight you are going to look, which then doubles down on the goal that you initially had, which was fat loss. You're now able to look like you work out, feel lean and toned because you're actually eating more.
That's right.
Your cortisol levels, they reduce. And your stress-related fat storage, which is usually the visceral fat, around the organs, around the belly, that is dissipated too because we're at a healthy maintenance. And when you take the time to build those habits over the long haul, your relationship with food, it improves dramatically. All of these emotional eaters that I've eventually gotten into our empowerment phase, they are like, I don't think I'm an emotional eater anymore. Like, this is like magic. How did we do this? And it's like, because you're literally eating more food.
Yeah.
And
eating enough.
Your body's working for you.
Yeah.
We're working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And the longer the maintenance phase, the more effective the next deficit is going to become. And this is why I said before, it's like cyclical, right?
Yes.
Like, if you think about like charging a battery before you use it, a fully charged battery will last a lot longer and perform better. Like, that seems obvious. And a battery you keep running into the ground and you only do partial charges with, it doesn't hold a charge as well. It ends up dying faster. That is like, I want you to think of that like with your metabolism. We really want to fuel it properly to get
exactly
what we want out of it in the best possible way.
That's a good analogy.
The goal of maintenance is not to necessarily maintain forever. It's to set the stage so that when you do pursue a fat loss phase or any other type of goal that you might have, your body is ready, willing, and able to respond to it. That's how we can then get into and out of a fat loss phase more quickly because your body's ready to respond. And if you're like listening to this and you're like, oh my God, this was a light bulb moment. Like, I've been chasing fat loss for years without ever even coming into a real maintenance, that's why you've been stuck. Like, this is literally the piece that we need to help you unlock. And it's such an important conversation that we have with not just our clients who've been with us long term, who have evolving goals, but right at the start before you're even a client, because we need to understand what path we're taking you down. And most coaches will just put you in a deficit steep as possible to force response. And that's not what we want to do. We want to preserve the long-term health of your metabolism. We look at your history first and tell you what your body needs, even when it's not what you think you want to hear. And that's like when maturity reaches a new level around your health and fitness goals.
That's right.
So if you think you would like to have a conversation with a coach who understands the full picture and knows when to push a deficit and when to hold at maintenance, we actually have some applications open right now at getsculpted.ca/contact. We will help you earn your right into a proper deficit by building the appropriate foundation first. So fill that out. Let us help you figure out what phase you're supposed to be in so that we can get you to your goals more quickly and more efficiently. So now let's talk about what happens when none of this is understood and a woman keeps chasing fat loss without that foundation. So T, can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I want to just quickly share like this exact scenario that I've seen happen quite a few times. And that is when someone is coach hopping. And the reason you don't want to coach hop, there's many reasons. Number one, I always equate it with like a relationship, right? Like if you're trying to find your person, you're in like a long trip, like your marriage.
Good
your
analogy.
hubby knows you inside and out. They're like, they know your phases of your life. Like they've been through several of those together. When you have a new relationship, it's like exciting, you're getting something new, but then it's like you have to work that up again. So it's the same thing with a coach. Like you're starting fresh with a coach, you're new to each other. It's more optimal when you stay committed to one dedicated coach because they map out those multiple phases. And I tell clients this from that first call. I'm like, our most successful clients are the long haulers. So this is what happens sometimes. People come to us and say like, okay, I want to lose body fat. And we do some digging, obviously, about how much they're eating, what their diet phase was. But if you're starting with a coach and they aren't aware of that or not fully aware of it, and they might not be for a variety of reasons, you might have come from doing a fat loss phase with another coach, gone off of that without any reverse or any like interim phase, and like just kind of like done the fat loss with the first coach, not taken a really long break, kind of like let loose and like regain that body fat. And now you're coming to coach number 2 and saying, okay, let me get a fresh set of eyes and I'll do another fat loss phase. And then it's not even necessarily that coach's fault, but every time you're coach hopping, you're starting fresh. They might not realize the extent of how long you've dieted, that you're not primed for that. And then you're just going from coach to coach. And then you're feeling like, oh my God, this coach isn't working. This approach isn't working. Oh, with my first person, I was at 1,500 and losing body
Right.
fat. Now that 1,500 isn't working. Yeah, because it's because of your dieting.
Right.
It's not because of the strategy. Have you girls seen this?
Absolutely.
Totally.
And it's kind of like what I said before, where it's like the maturity for your health and fitness comes when you're willing to look at the strategy and do something differently. It's like, why would you continue to be insane repeating the same thing over and over again that isn't working? And what you really need to do is be like, okay, let's pull back. Let's be honest about what's been happening and figure out the most appropriate next step.
You know, I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Coaching is for every phase. It's not just for the fat loss phase.
Yeah,
like it's the most important piece is actually how to transition you out of that. Because a lot of the time you've done some sort of fat loss. Heck, I don't need, I just, did Ozempic, or I just did this diet, or I did fasting. Okay, great. But like, do you look any better? Number one, probably not. And also like, do you
know how to sustain it?
Do you know how to sustain it? Do you know how to sustain it? Exactly.
Yeah.
So Mare, I would love if you could take us home here with some tactical takeaways to help us improve that.
Yes, because we love to leave you with tactical takeaways. So there's 5 big things we want you to get out of this episode, okay? The first is get honest about your dieting history. And I mean like really honest, okay? I want you to sit and think, how long have you been in some version of a deficit? It might be months, it might be years. We've actually had clients say to us that they have been dieting for upwards of 30, 40, 50 years. And I'm going to be really honest here for myself. When I think back to like my dieting history, I was that person too. Like I was thinking about this recently, how like I probably started dieting when I was in grade 7 or 8. Guys, that's like 12, okay?
I know.
And I was in some form of a diet up until, honestly, I don't think I actually did my first real maintenance, like proper strategic with like guidance of a coach until my 40s. Like I'm not joking, because other coaches I had, or when I tried to like MacGyver it myself, I was just in a deficit for prolonged periods of time. And then when I wasn't, I was like off the rails. So like, you know what I mean? So,
me neither.
So that's what we want you to do. And it's really important you do this, because it's going to tell you how much runway your metabolism actually needs before a deficit will actually work. Like we said, if you've been dieting years and years and years, maybe right now the diet is not what you need, right? And if you cannot remember the last time you ate at maintenance with strategy and intention, that is like your answer right there. Okay. So further to that, number 2 is consider a dieting break before you go into a deficit again. So if you do reflect and you're like, oh dear, like I have been on a diet on and off for longer than I can remember, the most powerful thing you can do right now is commit to a real maintenance phase. And we've been very specific about this. A dieting break does not mean a free for all. It is not like I'm just throw caution to the wind.
That's how you gain body fat.
Exactly. Eating at your maintenance needs to be strategic. It needs to have like a consistent calorie intake. It needs to have training with the right intensity. You've got to be prioritizing protein. Again, all the things we talk about: sleep, rest and recovery, stress management. It is a structured period of time, and it gives your body what it needs to recalibrate before you're ready to lose fat. And just a quick client story on this one, because I have a client who came to me, and some of it was health related, some of it was diet, but she was chronically under eating for years and years and years. And I didn't necessarily know that at the beginning. It wasn't fully disclosed, maybe not on purpose, but anyway. And she wasn't budging. Like it was like Plateausville. We were like, what is happening? We dug a little bit deeper, realized her calories had been like, I'm talking about like 1,000 to 1,200 calories for so long, that this is what I said to her. I said, I'm going to be honest. We're not touching fat loss until we get your calories up to like a sustainable 15, 16, 1,700 calories. Moral of the story, she listened, she trusted the process, and now we're seeing her body respond.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Third thing,
Amen.
Stop measuring success only by the scale during maintenance. This is huge. And our clients can attest to this. If you are watching the scale during maintenance, you are setting yourself up to want to bail, because the scale likely will not be going down. In fact, you might see a little bit of an uptick, actually. So your success in maintenance, aside from trusting the coach who is pulling you through this maintenance phase with strategy, think about like how your energy is, how your sleep is, how your workouts are feeling. Are you stronger? Are you lifting more weight? How is your mood, right? How is your relationship with food? You already brought that up, Jor. That's so important. These things are not consolation prizes. This is the foundation that your next fat loss phase is going to be built on. So like anything, if you skip the foundation, what's going to happen? Everything's going to fall apart. The next fat loss phase is going to be just as disappointing, because your body's not going to budge. Okay. Number 4, is work with someone who understands the full picture, okay? Not just someone who will put you in a deficit. Anybody can do that. Anybody can. Anybody can say, here, eat like 1,200 calories. The real skill is knowing when not to put you in a deficit. So a good coach like us here at Get Sculpted, we look at your whole history, your stress, your sleep, training, hormones, and we tell you the truth. Even if it's the thing we know you don't necessarily want to hear, we tell you what you need to hear because that is what we do as coaches. And that is the difference between short-term results and you getting lasting change. And the fifth is stop hiring a coach or stop doing fat loss alone. The goal is not just to lose weight. The goal is to have a body that responds and can take you through all of these phases, deficit and maintenance, and a body that can take you through things like vacations, stressful seasons, like events. That's what you want. So you want to build a relationship with a coach through both phases, deficit and maintenance, not just fat loss and being like, I'm done. I reached my fat loss goal. The context a coach is going to build with you over time is what makes the process more effective. So if you're hiring a coach every single time you want to lose weight and then disappearing because you feel you don't need maintenance, you are working against yourself.
Yeah.
And I truly, like, I have lived this. I know you girls have too. I cannot speak to this enough. If you're thinking you're signing up for like, you know, a 16-week or like whatever week program and you're done, that's like this much of your, and I'm literally making like a, not even a centimeter, you know, gesture of your journey. So those are the 5 things. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. What we want you to take away here from all of this is that fat loss is not always the answer and it's not always linear. And if you want a successful fat loss phase, you have to line up the phases that come before it and after it. And remember, this is exactly why having a coach is so helpful. And this is exactly what we help our clients do. It's not just the fat loss. It's not just the reverse diet. It's everything through that journey that is unique to you. So this is all going to be dependent on the context of your situation. So if you are wondering like, where the heck do I go from here? Let's have the conversation around what your body needs. Go to getsculpted.ca/contact and talk to us about where you're at, and we will see if we can help. And don't forget, if this episode resonated, please share it with a woman who has been stuck in this cycle and or leave us a review. We always appreciate it. We get more awesome women like you tuning in. And we're really excited for the next one. This was a really good chat. Next week, we'll be talking about AI and where it can help and where it can hurt you. So we'll see you there. Thanks, girls.
Bye.
Bye.